I did it. I win the Zoom bronze medal of the day. All right. Thanks for being here, everyone. Sorry for the hiccup getting started. I am going to get ready to share screen. We can look at our agenda. See how that goes with the Zoom. Okay, are you seeing the agenda? Yay, great. Okay, so I'm gonna have everyone put their name and what you're representing into the chat for us today. We're gonna have a chance to hear some good news from out there in your work. Alyssa is gonna and Serena Studemeyer are gonna join us and talk about some DELC changes that are coming up and be able to take questions about the structure of DELC. And then we're going to talk really briefly about the ELC meeting presentations that's coming up. I'll give you an update on hiring, and then Dana Young is here to talk to us about Preschool Promise RFA updates. Okay, I don't know about you all, but I am like ready for some good news from out in the world today. So I know this is putting people on the spot, but I'm wondering if a couple people just would like to come off mute and just tell us something that you're doing right now at your hub that's feeling really good for you. Whether it's progress or just like a favorite thing that's coming around this time of year that you enjoy.
I can get us started. So I have secured funding to offer a playful inquiry cohort for all 4 counties that our ESD covers. So Clatsop, Columbia, Tillamook, and Washington County. And this has been in partnership with the Washington County Hub and both CCR&Rs as well. So we'll be able to offer both school, like preschool teacher cohorts, as well as principal and early learning coordinator type of cohort that's virtual. And it's so Teaching Preschool Partners is offering it, Christine Dundorf and her team. So we're really, really, really excited. And literally every person I've talked to about it in our region to be like, hey, I put this together because I've heard it's a thing that you guys want to do. And I figured it out how to do it. Like, they're all very excited. So just really looking forward to getting that off the ground this fall, and all of the kids that are going to benefit from playful inquiry professional development for professionals.
That is really good news. Thanks for sharing that, Dorothy. I've gotten to do some work with those partners as well, and Kristen Dundorf, they're great. Anyone else want to share?
This is Kelly Poe. I can share. So yesterday, I met a representative from the Ford Family Foundation, and one of my coworkers and I drove out to Unity. Unity is in the Burnt River School District area, and we went to the school to talk about a group of parents who want their children in preschool because they want their children to be ready for kindergarten. It was just so different to be with a group of parents who were not saying, I need childcare. They were saying, our children are on a farm or a ranch, and they need some socialization and they need some kinder skills before they enter kindergarten. So met with all of the parents of the preschool age children. The school district catchment area is 1,157 square miles, so over 1,000 square miles, and there are 5 children. So it's, you know, when we talk about equity and how much it costs to deliver high quality preschool to 6 children in an isolated remote area where children have to travel 45 minutes to an hour or more just to get to preschool because their parents think it's important. That is good news. That's really encouraging and exciting. And I think we're going to make it happen. Our goal is to have this program ready for some sort of state funding within 3 years. So for now, we just want to keep it going, make sure the children are that they get there and that they're fed and that they have high quality curriculum and teaching staff, and we'll just take it a step at a time. It was just cool that they would call the Early Learning Hub to help them out as well.
It's amazing. I'm just thinking about like how drawn children are to each other in the same room, and just like how much joy they're gonna have when they get to spend that time together. Thanks, Kelly. I think we've got time for one more if anyone else wants to jump in.
I can go. This is Begoña with Early Learning Washington County. So last month, we actually launched the first cohort in the state of Oregon of a multilingual early BIPOC cohort that wants to become master trainers and community trainers around STEM. So we were targeting those that speak other languages than English. So at this point, we have 9 participants that speak Arabic, Farsi, Spanish, Vietnamese, Hmong, and Dutch. And so they started last month, and the program is going to run until August. And they are also going to be facilitating STEM NGSS one-on-one set 1 for early childhood educators here in Washington County. And we also started the work around creating early STEM boxes. I'm going to call it boxes for now, okay? Because we still don't know how the format is going to look like for infant and toddlers. So we are going to bring STEM to the infant and toddlers.
That's very cool. There's so much that happens in infant toddler minds that is things that we call related to STEM, but yeah, people aren't aware of that. That's amazing. Maybe such a good opportunity. All right, I have not seen Alyssa pop on yet. Is that right, Anne? Okay. And I'm gonna will you let me know when you do see Alyssa, Serena, and I'm gonna just move along through the agenda, and we'll come back to them when they get here. Great, thanks. Okay. Dana, I saw that you're on, but you might be doing other things. Do you want to jump in and do your update now?
Sure. I can
Okay,
do
great. Let's do that.
that. Good afternoon, Dana here with Preschool Promise. Just thought I'd give you all like a quick update on the RFA. Our RFA was approved by DOJ in procurement. So that's kind of what we've been wanting to go ahead and get it approved. Yes, Kelly, it's like super exciting. And then, so right now where we are is in translation. So as all of you guys may be aware of, like we want to be able to provide the opportunity for those that want to apply to either apply in English or Spanish. So that means that all the documents that we have need to go ahead and be sent for translation. And then the development of the online application is underway as well. So we're still on track. RFA is coming here within the next couple weeks. You know, just super general information about the RFA. We know that people are, you know, finishing up their program here. They're probably going to be taking some time off and so on. But the RFA is only going to be open for 30 days. So super important. There's no changes on that. That's the only, so I think just as you walk away and as you're talking to like potential applicants, it's only going to be available. It's only going to be open for 30 days. We are looking as far as like, and we'll be able to go ahead and share like more timeline information as, you know, the RFA is released. As far as like, well, what about like when are, you know, when are they supposed to like start services? What does that look like? So more to come on that. You know, as it gets released, we'll go ahead and have a meeting with Hubs and CCRNRs to kind of just talk like timeline and what that looks like. You know, as far as like the RFA, you know, last RFA, we were able to do like external reviewers. on the RFA. This time, just due to the time and just all of the workload and everything, we're not going to go ahead and have external reviewers on the RFA. Everything's going to be done internally. So definitely look forward to sharing that with you all later on as far as what, what are the timelines for review and some of those pieces. But right now, general, we're on track. It will get launched here in the next couple weeks. As far as like our cost per child has increased. It used to be 12,360, has now gone up to 13,650 per child. And that's for new applicants, existing applicants, and everybody that applies. And then there has been an increase on the transportation enhancement as well. It has gone up from, I believe it's $400 per child to $900 per child. So my apologies, but it has gone up to $900. And then there's also going to be some, just like with the last RFA, there's going to be some startup available, some more details to come on that and what that looks like. And then we also have like new insurance limits. So as of July 1st, that's when the new insurance limits are going to go ahead and, kind of start. I think one of the main differences with the insurance limits is that now we have a separate level on the insurance, on one of the insurance for home-based providers. So we're hoping that that allows them to go ahead and have more availability within the market. So, I'll go ahead and share the same thing that I shared with our CCRNRs this morning. Like, we know that some applicants may be hesitant to apply for Preschool Promise because they have heard of how expensive or not accessible like insurance is. We have made some changes. We know that this is something that we're going to continue working with DAS and working through our procurement team as far as like how can we continue like moving the needle on that. But for that, the insurance limits have changed and those will start as of July 1st. So just super general, hopefully, as things evolve, we'll go ahead and keep you all updated. We are going to have our communications department is working on a landing page on the website. Is everything related to the RFA is going to be posted under the Preschool Promise page on the website. So they're working on that to go ahead and like make everything available. But as far as this, just go ahead and keep that in mind. For hubs, we did work really hard during the RFA. And once again, thank you to all who responded my, calls out of nowhere, that we needed to go ahead and get some, updates on the information on that information submitted through the Preschool Promise Lot assessment. So just, you will be able to go ahead and see some of those pieces on the RFA. One thing to know, because I'm looking at Kelly and Kelly received a call out of nowhere and we jump onto a Zoom meeting to go in and figure things out. And Molly and all of you have been so gracious, is that when you guys see the RFA, like I said, we did everything that we could to go ahead and use all the information that you provided. Just keep in mind, there's also some procurement restrictions and DOJ restrictions, but that document, your Preschool Promise Lot allocation request, that is a great tool for like recruitment and outreach. Because one piece that we were not able to use is the provider characteristics. And one of the reasons why is because it included things that we as a program like don't require or pay our grantees to do. But that is definitely, we do feel strongly that that information can be shared with like your CCRNRs and really just try to go ahead and use it for like recruitment and outreach. But you will see some of those familiar pieces like on the RFA there, but more to come on that. I think right now, I just wanted to give you all a quick update and just so you know that it's going to be coming here within the next couple of weeks. We're also working with DOJ. We love to be able to go ahead and be more, just give you all more information so you can prepare in community. However, right now, because we're going through a different process with like procurement and like DOJ and everything, and you are all like an eligible entity to apply for the RFA. So sometimes that gets a little bit like what do we do, but just know that our goal is to go ahead and be as transparent and collaborative as we can. So just more to come on that. But right now it's about just recruitment and outreach. And once again, thank you to all who responded to my calls, and we were able to get on the phone and get things working. So I don't know, Carmen, if we have time for questions or we won't. Okay, we do. Okay.
Yeah, we've
Alright.
got a couple minutes for questions if anyone has anything.
I have a question.
Mhm.
When do we find out about the slots or the programs that are under review?
Yes.
So we had a couple of programs that are being reviewed. When will they find out?
Great question on that. So we are still in the process. We have a couple more that are under review for like the low enrollment. So kind of how that whole process works is that there's like an internal review committee, and then we make a recommendation, then it goes up to leadership. So for the licensing, that has already been completed, has already been sent up to leadership to go ahead and do that. And then for the low review, we're just a little bit behind just because of the RFA. So we hope to go ahead and have like a final decision by no later than the end of next week. So just go ahead and stay tuned. How you will be notified is that Angela will be sending out an email to hubs and CCRNRs through our PSP email, similar to the one that you all got a couple weeks ago that say, hey, we've updated the list. Now go ahead and go back at it and look at the list again. So we're still a little bit behind on that. All of the grantees that have that were under review have been notified because they sent additional information. And then everyone who like passed the thresholds has already been notified too. There's still, a few that may be working through their insurance. So that's the reason why you may not see them on the list if they're still working through their insurance processes and stuff. But the goal, like I said, is to go ahead and get this all completed by the end of no later than next week, because we know we're going to get really busy here pretty soon. But yeah, Begonia.
Thank you, Dina. I have a question. So some of the low enrollment, it is because there was some misalignment with the sector plan during the selection process of applicants. So I wonder, so for this new batch of providers coming our way and future cohorts, so what is the system and the process in place so that that thing doesn't happen? Are we going to look? Are we gonna be? I'm not gonna use the word more intentional, but are we gonna place the sector plan at the center of that will help make those decisions, or is there a different layer that is gonna be supporting those decisions?
Yeah, great question. What's going to be playing, and you can use the word, we're definitely going to be a lot more intentional on this RFA as far as being like super responsive, and the data point that we're going to go ahead and be using to go ahead and inform some of those decisions is going to be the preschool promise lot assessment information that you all submitted, because that's very like a specific information about the geographic location, the provider type, the language of instruction, provider characteristics. We weren't able to go ahead and use that, but I think that's where like that recruitment and outreach like takes role. So you will be seeing, we work really hard with DOJ and procurement on like, we have this awesome data from community. This is what parents are looking for. This is what they want. So how can we go ahead and use that in the selection? So once the RFA gets released, that's, definitely a meeting that we'll need to go ahead and schedule to kind of show you and take you through the process. You'll see it on the RFA, but that's the intent with this next RFA that we're really using that, but we'll be using the preschool promise lot allocation information that was submitted by each of the hubs. That's why, like, yeah, that's why it was super important. I'll go ahead and use Molly as an example. It's like also Molly is like, when we were looking at some of the data, it's like, okay, but what does this mean? Like, how do we like make sure that we're using the words that they're going to make sense to the applicant, but they're also going to be responsive to families. So that is going to end, I'll give you a disclaimer and ask my apologies now. Because of some of those constraints, we may have, have some opportunities there that we'll need to go ahead and do it. But really do know that this RFA was a lot about like transparency. That's because that's a lot of the feedback that we receive is like, wait a second, you didn't tell me that you were going to go ahead and prioritize West Salem. Does that make sense? We didn't prioritize, but just an example. It's like, why do you do that? So it's a lot about that transparency piece of like the applicant knowing exactly like why they were being selected. What we refine some of the questions as well too. So, but definitely look forward to discussing with you all. One thing to go ahead and know is that because we are going through like a procurement process, it's going to feel a little bit different than maybe last RFA, where you can probably go to so many different people for like questions on the RFA. This time, you know, they are going to go through procurement. We have a sole point of contact where everything's going to get documented, because the whole goal is that if Kelly's asking me a question, we need to make sure that that answer is available to everybody. Does that make sense? Because we don't want to, nobody can be advanced in any one way. So I think that is going to be like a, you know, we're working through that process as far as like, how do we make sure that everybody gets that answer and that no applicant unintentionally is getting a little bit more attention. Does that make sense? So it's going to be a new process, but we look forward to collaborating with you all.
Thank you, Dina. And as a RFA follow-up, so if there is one provider that it says, I'm gonna be opening a site in Salem, in this specific part of Salem, targeting the Latino community, and it happens that the provider changes locations and moves to a location where that population is not available or not in the area and is impossible to serve. Is there a process to actually have a discussion with the hub and the ELD and the provider to see, you know what, it doesn't make any sense? So before they actually move, so that we don't encounter these situations that they already moved and then there's nothing that we can do. Yeah.
No, I think as we move forward with Preschool Promise, I think we'll need to go ahead and like have a, you know, tying up our process for like when people like change sites. You know what I mean? So I think that's one thing like with this next RFA, that because the way that is laid out and set up is like and I'm trying to go ahead and make skincare too much on the RFA, but I think the answer is like, yes. I think we'll need to go ahead and like improve our processes and say, well, wait a second, Carmen, like you were selected because of this reasons, because of this location, tell us more, and just create a little bit more alignment. So that is one new process that I feel that is going to go ahead and be strengthened by the way that we're doing things, you know, different. Thank you. But I think this is where we all, you know, I feel that just, you know, sitting from where I am, like know that, you know, we work really hard to go ahead and use the data that you all provided. But then there's the other piece of like, okay, so we're using this data, but, you know, we're still looking for applicants across the state. We're still wanting to go ahead and expand. So definitely your collaboration with CCRNRs on that piece of like recruitment and outreach is going to be really vital. So we can go ahead and make sure that we get applicants that do meet like parents' needs and community. And stuff. So just gonna keep that in mind. And it looks like Dorothy, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so this isn't related to the RFA. It's a different Preschool Promise related question that I just would ask. So we did hear back, or my team heard back from Angela copying the one Preschool Promise program that had low enrollment. And she had brought up the Frontier and Rural waiver thing. So my understanding was that that was a designation that is a federal designation. That's like a list of zip codes that fall under that. And the reason why we had not pursued that waiver in the past was because this particular school district, while it is a really small community, shares a zip code with a much more populated Astoria. And so it's not on that Frontier and Rural waiver zip code list. So I've already emailed her this, but I don't know if there are emailed her the question of, do we just go ahead and submit it? And would it be declined because they're not on that list, that federal zip code list? Or how does the ELD determine whether or not a community is truly is like Frontier and Rural? I guess is the question, because I thought it was using that federal designation.
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. I'll go ahead and make note of that and, you know, go ahead and have the, you know, conversation with Crystal and just being a little bit more clear about the process, not to take like, you know, this meeting on that, but I will say, go ahead and submit it. for review, because we do know that there may be the designation, like we also know Oregon, and there's certain like areas of Oregon where it's like we may want to go ahead and take a look at that. So I will say, like, just real quick, go ahead and submit it, and then on our end, I'll go ahead and talk to Crystal about like sharing a little bit more information about the process and some of those pieces. But thank you. And I think my time is up, but I'll still stick around, and feel free to go ahead and email me. Like I said, we work really hard to go ahead and try to be intentional. And I think the next couple weeks is, I think, while it may be stressful, is when the fun begins, and it's a lot of outreach and recruitment and getting the word out there. So thank you all for your collaboration.
Thanks for joining us, Dina. Appreciate your time. You are super busy with all those things you just named. Okay, I see. So my apologies. I think I have the time wrong that Alyssa and Serena were going to join us. So Alyssa's just popped on. We're waiting for Serena so that you can all be introduced to her as well. But in the meantime, I'm just going to keep kind of scrolling down through the agenda. One of the things on there is just a really quick update on Early Learning Hub coordinators and rehiring replacements for Denise and I in that, and where we are is in interviews right now. So we just started. I'm optimistic. We had a good hiring pool to look, or applicant pool to look at. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And I know a lot of you have asked about organizational chart, and we do have that coming out in a public version on our website. And you'll be able to click into there and also see things that are vacant that are coming up. So that'll be cool. And Sue, I see you on here too. Sue, I'm going to talk about the ELC presentations after Alyssa, and if you want to jump in there with anything, let me know. Alyssa, how about if we get started on your presentation, and then as Serena joins us, you can introduce her as well.
Perfect. That sounds great.
Okay, let me make you a co-host here.
Thank you. Okay, so wanted to just give you all a DELC update. And Carmen, let me know if Serena pops on. But wanted to kind of give you all some updates. I know I've been meeting with a lot of you in kind of your own board meetings. And so just appreciate you giving me some time, and wanted you to kind of all see the latest. So some of you might have seen this slide. I think we gave it in the February presentation, but this is sort of how we've been tackling the creation and implementation of the Department of Early Learning and Care. And so we spent last summer and fall really in the analyze phase. So looking at the current state of employment-related daycare, looking at the current state of our existing operations, and doing a little bit of kind of research into some other states that have their own early learning agencies to help inform what our organizational structure would be and kind of what functions we'd want to create. From there, we focused on the design phase. And so really from fall through primarily early spring and into kind of January, February, focused on what does it actually mean to move the employment-related daycare program and its associated functions, do some very initial drafting on mission, vision, and values, and focus on what it would take to actually operationalize a new agency. So we spent a lot of time on kind of internal organizational design and the fiscal impacts to be prepared for the February legislative session. So we're continuing to work on long-term budget impacts and work closely with ODHS on the ins and outs of what's transferring and what it would cost. But now we're really focused primarily on this kind of salmon colored build phase. So we've consolidated the 45 projects that were associated with standing up the agency into 36 to be a little bit more reflective of kind of what we need and where we are in the process. And we're working on transitioning or establishing new processes, policies, looking at rulemaking and sort of the operational infrastructure that we need to develop, and focusing a lot on change management where we can. So I am really excited because we finally have our chief of programs role full. It's been, I think, 11 months. And so Serena Stoudemire Wesley is joining as our deputy director and chief of programs. And just wanted to kind of orient you all, I know this is like a ton of words, to what sort of the vision for that is. So my kind of assessment as I've been here for the last, I guess, 14 months is that I think I need some support on kind of doing some of the internal focus so that I can be more focused on the external work, working with you and CCR&Rs and legislators in the governor's office to continue to drive the work of the Department of Early Learning and Care and the vision for early learning forward. So Serena is going to be my right hand on internal support and coordination, as well as running the program unit. So the program team, Gwen and Dana and all the fabulous folks on Gwen's team are continuing to support the administration of all of our early learning programs. So Preschool Promise, Baby Promise, Oregon Pre-Kindergarten, Healthy Families Oregon, Relief Nurseries, and Early Childhood Equity Fund. This work will all continue to reside there as they look at program standards and work with the grants team on kind of funding and monitoring with grant agreements. The community systems team, Carmen's amazing team, will continue to work with you all in CCR&Rs and other community partners on regional coordination and really focusing on building childcare capacity, cross-sector convening, and continuing to support our overall early learning system locally. There will continue to provide support on engagement around performing against defined goals, looking at performance management, as well as coordinated enrollment, continuing to live in community systems. We are, and you'll kind of see in this visual here, pulling apart some of the work. So John Reeves and his team and Andy will be separating officially into a professional learning team. And the goal is to continue to be working very closely with hubs and CCR&Rs, but to really focus on the professional learning strategies and operationalizing our professional learning system, utilizing CCR&Rs in particular, as well as other key partners to drive this work and really have a kind of clear focus on establishing professional learning supports for the entire early learning system. Childcare assistance is where the employment-related daycare program, currently called the Childcare Policy Team. This is the folks that will be moving over from the Department of Human Services in July of 2023. You'll notice we've got a little inclusive partners box under John's team. We're actually working to move the inclusive partners team this year as sort of a little bit of a pilot, but it really fell well with some interagency agreement and grant timelines to move that program. And then human resources. So this is really kind of focusing on that deputy director arm of Serena's role and making sure that we have support for our HR director, Heather Thomas, and focusing on continuing to recruit incredible staff, make sure we're supporting and retaining the amazing staff we already have, and continuing to kind of drive our culture and our shared goals for the agency going forward. So a lot of work, really key position, as you all know, and I'm really excited to get Serena's expertise and experience to also help us operationalize equity throughout the agency in this deputy director function. So this is sort of the overarching visual of the organizational structure and the chief of programs and deputy director unit. So you'll see here the inclusive partners team and childcare assistance teams. These are just kind of representing the teams that will be moving over. Our goal is to have a version of this available on our external site so folks can kind of see what positions we have vacant and upcoming. So you'll notice here, anything that's in teal is a position that's already filled. These gray boxes represent positions that are vacant, and we're working to create ideally an interactive space so that folks can see that we have a professional learning systems effectiveness coordinator posted and can get right into that job posting and position description, and that folks can see, great, at some point we're going to hire a Spark coordinator if that's a body of work that they're interested in. This salmon colored box just represents positions that we recommended in the February session and identified we would come back for in 23-25. So this is just kind of to give you that view of how things shake out within the chief of program and deputy director unit going forward as we think of operationalizing DELC. I also wanted you to be aware of some resources that we've been putting on our website just to provide more information and context about what we're creating and why. And so just trying to really capture what we're trying to do to improve services to families and providers, and leveraging this opportunity to build one coordinated and consolidated childcare and early learning system within the Department of Early Learning and Care. So this is available on our House Bill 3073 page on our website. We also have an external inbox that's created. So if folks have questions about how DELC design and implementation are going, you can send a note there. That way nothing will get lost in my inbox and we'll get a response back to you. The last piece I just wanted to mention with you all, and I know it was called out earlier in our kind of project design, but we've been working on mission, vision, and values. So we did some very preliminary internal work to prepare for our January legislative report this year. But we want to start doing deep external engagement to really explain to us what the expectation is that you all as partners, that parents and families and providers have of us as a new agency, and really trying to reinforce that we're not trying to build ELD 2.0. This isn't just a bigger version of what we already are. This is a new agency. There's a new culture, there's a new relationship and a new dynamic, and an opportunity to really take a look at all of our existing processes, how we enter work, how we enter these relationships, and be thoughtful and reflective and make sure that we're entering into relationships the way you all would like us to, and the way families expect to engage with the state. And so this work is just getting underway. There's a survey that I think folks have received the link to through June. This is really just sort of the first opportunity and touch point to answer some questions and start to reflect back to us what you want to see and what you think of when you think about working with the state and working with the Department of Early Learning and Care, and what you'd like that relationship to look like. So wanted to make sure that was on your radar, and encourage you to not just respond, but also share this link with your partners. We want to get really as many perspectives as possible, especially knowing the cross-sector nature of early learning. It's really important that different partners are able to say what they expect of us and how we need to show up in relationship going forward. So thank you. I'm happy to answer questions. And I know that's a ton of information, but I hope this is helpful. And thank you for dropping the visual in, Carmen, the reorganization review.
We just noticed that there's an omission from that document. Actually, I just dropped it in, which explains about like the professional learning team coming out from being part of community systems and being its own team. There's actually an additional position that should be on there, which is we're going to be hiring a coordinated enrollment specialist who will work really closely with Anne, as well as our publicly funded programs like OPK, Preschool Promise, Baby Promise. So really looking forward to that, getting around to that hiring and having that person come on as well. And another thing I wanted to highlight, sorry, no, Alyssa was like, I'll take questions. I was like, wait, no. Let me add a couple more things in, and then I know that people probably have questions. But while I'm thinking about it, we also shared this with the CCR and our directors and partners this morning. And they had some questions too and are mulling things over. So we're gonna make sure to get some more time with them to answer questions that they come up with after they've had more time to process. But wanted to highlight that there is a significant change, particularly on their side of things, in terms of relationship with the ELD, just in that Andy, who I see is on here today, Andy Bales-Molnar and John Reeves have been the primary CCR&R liaisons and TA support grant managers for the CCR&Rs of late, and they are actually both moving with their move to the professional learning team. They'll be filling out a full-time role in professional learning aside from CCR&Rs, and on the community systems team with Anne and Cass and I and others will be hiring 2 full-time CCR&R liaisons, which I know that for our CCR&R partners and that can be a difficult change to have new people to learn, and they have to do some training of us too. But we're really excited about it because this actually gives 2 positions that are full-time in support of CCR&Rs and that coordination and supporting the work that they're doing out in community. Right now, Andy and John do an amazing job of splitting their time between CCR&R work and the other work that they have. So while they have done an awesome job of being committed, we're really excited with the capacity that this builds to have further partnership, and are really looking forward to making sure that we are making use of that to do some more coordination regionally with you all and CCR&Rs and your ESDs, et cetera. So as you can tell, I'm very excited to be able to build that out. But just putting it out there that for those of you, I know you all work really closely with your CCR&Rs, so they're going to be going through a bit of a change with that. So hopefully you can help support that. Okay, sorry, questions.
I can add that we received 66 positions from the legislature in February, an additional 20 for compliance and monitoring on the childcare side, but was really focused on building those back office functions that ODE currently provides. So procurement, accounting, HR, budget, IT. And so we've really been trying to look at how we can create additional capacity and efficiencies with the positions we have, while we continue to ask for some more positions next session. And so to Carmen's point, that's one of the things we've tried to do by pulling apart and kind of creating more discrete scopes for the community systems team and the professional learning team to help get us some of that additional capacity and some dedicated support for CCR&Rs while continuing to build the professional learning system, which is really critical to that childcare supply building strategy. So we're rearranging the deck chairs where we can to build capacity and look at our existing processes and find efficiencies so that we can find capacity where we already have folks, while we hopefully see some more investments from the legislature next session.
Hey, Alyssa, I have a question. This is Molly in Multnomah. What exciting changes to procurement are you looking forward to when you guys become your own place? Tell us.
So our procurement director just started last Wednesday, June 1st. Her name is Brenda Pearson. So some of you may know her, but she's already hit the ground running, has a whole litany of ideas. I've already seen her graphic visual of how she wants to break up the work. But generally what I'm really excited about is we'll finally have a procurement shop that knows us and our work. So this is not going to be, we work with school districts. Oh yeah, let's figure out how to help early learning and childcare providers and hubs. But she can really help us design a process with childcare providers in mind, with hubs and CCR&Rs in mind, and a deep understanding of the services we're trying to procure and the supports we're offering. So she is an incredible collaborative thinker, and she's already thinking about how do we develop processes that are consistent and are codified somewhere so we know that they're written down, but also developing capacity across our teams so that Carmen's team and Gwen's team and John's team all have the same understanding of the procurement process and those checkpoints so that they can also be armed with the information they need to start some of these procurement processes stronger than we've been able to, because that's really just been sort of a moving target. And we've had different levels of direction from ODE. So I think just by virtue of having our own shop, we'll see improvements, but I'm really encouraged by the type of thinking that I'm already seeing from our procurement director.
It's so great to hear. And I know, looking at my colleagues here, like if she ever wants to run an idea by, like, how would this really work in real life? We'd be more than happy to help.
Thank you. Yes, she will, I know, take you up on that. So I will make sure to pass the suggestion along. And I think Serena, hi. We were just kind of going through the org structure and kind of your new role, and just wanted to give you a minute to introduce yourself.
Okay, give me a minute to transition.
Yes, I know.
Hi, everyone. Oh, I see some familiar faces. Hi, Francis. It's been a long time. I'm Serena Stoudemire Wesley. Sorry, I just finished up one meeting, and so just kind of trying to catch my breath. And I recently was at the Chief Cultural Change Officer for DAS, and so I'm happy to be here. And I'm looking forward to working with you all. And I have been around a long, long time. Yes. What else would you like to know? Alyssa, what do you, I'm sorry.
No, you're
Serena,
good.
tell us about your hub experience.
Okay.
And then also remind them that you're finishing up at DAS too, doing some cool things there.
And I'm finishing up at DAS as well. So yeah, hopefully, yeah, I'll be done real soon. I started, I was the first hub coordinator in Multnomah County before it even went to United Way. I was working with Joanne Fuller. So I've been with the hubs for a long time. Molly Day, I see you shaking your head, yes. And then from there, I went to work for the Chief Ed office. And so I've been around since the beginning, even before the beginning. So lots of experience, know lots of folks here, and I'm looking forward to jumping back in and continuing to work with you all so that our families can thrive and be successful. Not just our families, but our kiddos too as well. And I should be practicing self-care today. It's going to be a long day.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's only Tuesday.
We did some good reminders in our CCR and our directors meeting to, you know, drink water and blink at the screen and look away from it and all those good things, which are just the bare minimum of taking care of ourselves in these back-to-back days. But Serena, thanks for being here. And I know that we'll have more time to talk with you in further meetings and as we get you up to speed on what's going on in Hub World right now, which is just an amazing number of innovative, creative things that are solving problems. So we'll look forward to pulling you into that more, but just wanted to get everyone a chance to put a face with a name today and start the conversation rolling with you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, anyone have any questions, just bring them on.
Well, hi, Serena. This is Lisa Harnish, and I'm the director for Marion and Polk Early Learning Hub. It's great to meet you. I've heard some amazing things about you, so very excited to work with you. So Alyssa and Carmen, I probably missed it because I'm late to the meeting, but a couple questions that I have regarding the org structure. So super exciting to see DELC getting built out and very excited to hopefully be able to study the org chart a little bit and kind of see where people are and how everything all fits together. So I'll look forward to that. I had a question about like, what's the timing? I know you're rapidly hiring, but like, when's your goal for having that structure really built out is one question that I have. And then a tangential question is related to the mission, vision, values. And yesterday, Carmen sent out the invitation to participate in the survey and to share that with groups. And so I'm wondering, and maybe you talked about that before I hopped on because I was late, but if we could even spend just a moment talking about that and how hubs could be most supportive to you in that.
Sure. So we're hiring fast and furiously. Our goal is to have most of these positions hired by fall. There's a couple of positions that'll come on in the last few months of the biennium, but we really want to have as much infrastructure developed as possible before the end of the year. So generally speaking, with a lot of the infrastructure we're developing, whether it's internal IT processes, accounting, budget structure, procurement, our goal is to have those kind of up and running by the end of the year or early spring. So there's plenty of time to kind of pressure test and make sure we're ready to go live on July 1 of 23. But so we've started making the moves now. So I think on the kind of Chief of Programs unit, we're moving our goal is to move the Inclusive Partners team by July 1 of this year. So we're in process of finalizing that through HR and with budget and kind of have a pretty clear cut plan between the next 3 weeks to make sure that that can go off without a hitch. And then we've been working at posting about 4 positions a week. That's across new and existing positions to start to build up some of the vacancies. So on the program side, the only new position we really got that wasn't a limited duration to permanent is that coordinated enrollment specialist that Carmen mentioned. So any other hires that are happening are repurposing an existing position we had or filling a vacancy that we've had, because we had to focus on kind of those back office functions that are sitting under the chief operating officer. So the structure is largely set on chief of programs. The other piece that will click into place on July 1 of 23 will be the child care policy team that we're calling the child care assistance team overseeing ERDC. So that's sort of the last piece of the puzzle that will happen when we officially become DELC in 23. The operational side, that kind of infrastructure side is taking more time. That's where we're building entirely new functions. So we're still aiming to have most of those key positions hired by the end of the year, which will really allow us to kind of solidify these internal changes. And then Carmen can speak to the timing, but I know our goal is to kind of make this shift on the community system, professional learning kind of separation through the summer. And then, yeah, go ahead, Carmen.
No, I was just gonna, that some of that really just depends on, a lot of it just depends on hiring, and some of that, and for people who like, you don't know our process as much, but because the CCR in our position is like a full-time CCR in our position, it's a new position description. So that has to go through DAS for approval at like at the level that it's at. So it takes a little bit of time. I'm hoping that July we'll be able to post and then start filling out that side of the team.
Thanks, Carmen. And then on the survey question, Lisa, so our goal that we've done some very preliminary work on mission, vision, values development, really just for the purposes of our legislative report. So this is really our sort of first touch point back into community to say, what do you expect from the Department of Early Learning and Care? And how do you expect to show up in relationship with us? So really trying to define, not help us wordsmith these draft mission, vision, values, but really getting at the core of kind of who we are as an agency and how you expect that relationship with the state to look like, and just what you expect from the teams you're working with communication wise, what you expect from grants teams. So really that first step in when you think about working with the Department of Early Learning and Care, what does that really look like? And then we'll kind of use that feedback to start to map into what values that's really elevating for us to hold for ourselves.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah. And I'll make sure Carmen has these slides and make sure you all know when we've got that org structure live so that you can see beyond just the chief of program unit. And I saw a draft earlier today, so I'm hoping we're close. But I appreciate the time to join you all. I have to run to a meeting with Rep Power, but thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Alyssa.
you.
Nice
Have a
to
great
see
meeting.
you. Bye.
All right. Sorry, let me get my alerts off. Okay, so everyone remember to blink and drink the water that's next to you. And I'm gonna move on to our last item, which is just a quick conversation, I think, about our June Early Learning Council presentation. So first of all, Lisa, thank you so much for helping gather ideas about what kinds of presentations we might do and what our topics might be for this. The invitation came with a really quick turnaround. I know you're all used to that, but I still hate to do it. And first of all, it was great, like just to see and be reminded of all of the amazing cross-sector work that's happening, and just have it all in one doc was really was fun for us to look through. And I worked really closely with Sue Miller, who's on the call, as well as Remy Watts and David Mandel and Alyssa and Serena was able to join us for a conversation. And we went over what it was that the council was asking for more information about, and then looked through the the project topics to figure out, okay, well, which of these will really let us show a mixture of sectors that you're all working with. We also wanted to make sure that we would have projects that were highlighted where you could have a presenter who is a cross-sector partner as another way to really demonstrate the depth of your cross-sector agency work. So I'm gonna pop into share. We have tentatively, I think we're set, but we're just confirming we've picked 3 different presentations, and they'll each be about 10 to 15 minutes. That'll be in the June meeting. And then we'll have time for questions. And we're just doing some finalization of topics and making sure that all presenters can be there. So let me get to the screen share. Okay, people I can see right now are Donna and Lisa. Can you see my slide? Great, thank you. So work that we're gonna highlight, this is super brief, but we're gonna have Northwest come and talk about Escutimobile, South Coast present on their apprentice program that's in conjunction with the Workforce Investment Board, and then Southern Oregon present on kinder transition work that's happening in the rural settings. And then you can see the sectors that will be represented in that, as well as co-presenters. And Sue, please feel free to chime in at any time. But the ask and sort of like the offer as well from the Early Learning Council that we got was been asked to better understand the role of early learning hubs as conveners across sector, but also to gain some understanding of how that cross-sector convening turns into that cross-sector partnership that you do. So not just like the amazing work that you do getting people to the table and like holding that table and facilitating that space and making sure that everyone's there who needs to be there, but also how is it that roles become defined when a project, when we name a problem or a space that needs a solution, how is it that cross-sector partnerships form and then address that? And so that's some information that they wanted, but it also came really as kind of a invitation / offer from the council saying, hey, you know, we're cross-sector, we represent different sectors. We have agency leads at this meeting. Hubs, can you tell us about what can we do for you to make sure to help you leverage those cross-sector relationships that you have? Who are the people that we should be making sure in our own agencies or in our own sectors are really being pushed to the table with you and being invited along on these things that maybe you don't have them there, or maybe there's another way that we can encourage people to be really active participants in hub work. So Sue and I have been talking about this a lot, and we're really excited to see these presentations and really be able to name for our Early Learning Council leaders some really specific ways that they might be able to support the iteration and emulation of this work that's happening across the state. So let me show you one more slide. So, and I've starred or asterisked those questions that I was naming, but this is what you can expect more or less. Again, this is still in draft, but this is what you can expect those presentations to focus on within cross-sector work, particularly that conversation from convening to partnering, and then how did we identify different responsibilities in addressing what's at hand. Elements for success, barriers that still might remain, so we can think about that together, I think is an important call out. If we're able to say, we have this cross-agency work and we're working to address this, and here's where we're even with that cross-agency work, there's some barriers that we need support to remove or group think on how to remove in new ways. And then wanting to make sure that we're just connecting this back to Raise Up Oregon objective and strategy. I know we all know that that's how that works, and the council is very tuned into Raise Up Oregon, of course, as well. But I always feel like it's really important in these mixed audiences to make sure that we're making specific callbacks to that and just continue to Raise Up Oregon as our plan and show the role that you have in pushing for that systematic change. So just wanted to share that with you so you know what's coming up. I'm going to be having some meetings with our presenters to check and get them whatever support they need and think through how we're going to answer these questions, and we'll figure out the order that we want to go in. Yeah. And then when the presentations are over, we'll have some time to take questions and have conversation with the council. I also wanted to put out there that one of the conversations that we've been having is, well, what other materials that might we want to supplement these presentations with, because there are so many other examples that we could use to answer the questions that the council's asked. So want to just put that out there and plant that seed. If there's a project that you, for example, the one that you put in the spreadsheet of ideas, if there's a project that you would like to highlight that you think could answer those same questions and demonstrate what we're looking for, it would be great to have additional supplemental information to send out, whether it's just like a one-pager or a front and back that highlights another project. You are very much invited, and we can work on that together too. Dorothy.
Yeah, so thanks for saying that, because while I'm very honored to be one of the hubs to be able to present about a really cool thing that's happening in our region, I also look at the list and I wonder if the lack of, there's two projects that are really like partnerships with early learning and K-12, and like in my case, micro and ed, but that's also can be viewed as part of the K-12 system in some ways. And I wonder, maybe this is a Sue question if she's still on, or you can take this back to Sue. If there's going to be concern from, I mean, there's no like health, or there's no like cross partnership that like talks about the cross sector work with health or human services. And I'm very honored to be able to present, but I would be more than happy to step back or come at a future time to another early learning council meeting, or maybe it's start with these three and then highlight other projects at future council meetings, just to be able to give space to highlight cross-sector work with other sectors that maybe even at the council level, they've struggled to comprehend their role as a cross-sector partner. And health just comes to mind because of some of the comments that Pat Allen has made. So I just wanted to offer that. I know that we're on a short time frame, but just as I've been reflecting the last little bit, that's what has been on my mind.
Yeah, thanks, Dorothy. I appreciate that. And I see Renee saying same, and I really appreciate that about this group and just your generosity and your understanding that what is positive in working in one area is also positive in working toward our goals for everyone. One criteria that I should have named that I didn't when we were as a group at ELD and with Sue talking about how to pick which projects we wanted to highlight was we also wanted to look at the population that was being served. So Dorothy, like yours was one of the projects that was serving a population that prefers a language other than English. So that was how that got on there. If there's other topics that people really feel like should be in there, we can talk about that for sure. Like feel free to send me maybe just send Sue and I an email about that, and we can talk about that. But yeah, the other problem is just time. Like 10 minutes is enough time to say like one or two sentences on each of those questions.
And maybe this was a call out to my fellow hub leaders of like, maybe if you didn't put something on that, but it meets all these questions, and it's with a health sector partner, now's your time. Step
yeah,
up.
That's a great call. If you just heard that and were like, oh wait, I have something that's perfect now that I know more about it. Lisa?
Well, to that end, you can always continue to fill up the spreadsheet. I will say, and I see Sue's got her hand up here too, but my hope, my desire is that this isn't the one and only time, if you will. And I know the council has heard from the hubs before, but I'm hoping that we can get to sort of a systemic way that we can bring these forward, whether it's ideas, conversations, questions to the council to help articulate the role of hubs. And so perhaps part of the conversation could be around, like, how could we embed this as part of our meeting in every time that we meet? Or are there, maybe there's things that come out of, our quarterly reports that we do, that the division is offering to the council on a regular basis. Maybe there's like one pagers that could be highlighted each month, or, I think there's just a variety of different ways to keep this in front of. And I would underscore too, the real, we do cross-sector work all the time. It may not involve all 5 or 6 sectors in one particular initiative, project, or collaborative, but so that we're really sharing the love with our health partners and social service partners as well, and how important that is. So I'll just put a plug in for that as you guys continue to plan. And I see Sue's got her hand up, and I'm going to lower my hand if I know how to do that. There we go.
Yeah, Sue, go ahead, please.
I think she's having a hard time unmuting. She was texting me earlier, so. Oh, shoot.
Serena,
I
thank you.
can feel the frustration
I know.
in not being able to unmute.
We've all been there with that, like asterisk
Yeah.
6 or whatever, and it's like, you're muted. I'm like,
Is
oh,
it star 6?
something like that.
I thought it was star 9 or star 7, but maybe Sue tries star 6. I don't know.
Sue, feel free if you, oh, you're there.
For better or worse. Star 6 worked. Thank you. What? Can you hear me?
We hear you, Sue.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, Dorothy, thank you for your comment about health. We absolutely have to make sure that we have the health sector represented, as we all know, well, for myriad reasons, including Pat Allen's very consistent inquiry and interest in the hubs. So I appreciate this conversation. I think Carmen and I need to get back together and talk through some more about how we're going to organize this and how we make sure we've got all 5 sectors represented by some of the projects that you hubs are working on. We intend to put this as the first agenda item for our June meeting, because that's when the agency directors join us. And one of my goals in this is for the agency directors, all 5 of them, although Alyssa already knows a lot about you, to get a better sense of what you all are doing in their sectors and in their regions. So it's kind of the prime time, in my opinion, for the council meeting. And I think the directors, all of them, all 5 of them, are very interested in figuring out more how they can tap into what you're doing, your work. Lisa Wendt, who sits on the council for Fair Boards and ODHS, asked again, I think she's asked this at every council meeting in the last few months, is there a way that the agencies can coordinate their family and community engagement efforts? And obviously you hubs are sort of the cornerstone of that for early learning. So I really do want to follow up with Lisa. I wasn't at the last council meeting, but I want to follow up with her
and just see how she would suggest that ODHS really get involved in some of the work that you all are doing. So, sorry, I've been muted. Thank you for the star 6. And thank you for all the work you're doing. And the council members are very, very much looking forward to your presentation in June.
Dorothy, I saw your suggestion in the chat box. For those who can't see it, it's maybe a future conversation at ELC could focus on the hub CCO collaborations related to the new metric. I love this idea. I think I was in 3 meetings in the last week about the new social emotional metric with CCOs, and just getting really like on the same page with the Transformation Center, OHA partners. So, and I think that would be a great place to highlight. So we could.
Yeah, the only thing I would just wanted to add is I know that sometimes there's been this like, and this may happen with the coming presentation, the like, well, that's just happening in your region. And this metric offers us the opportunity to talk about how this cross-sector work is actually happening across the state, across the hubs, and how it's the same thing, but the way that it's operationalized on the ground level is responsive to our individual communities. So there could be just a really cool opportunity with this metric, and maybe it's like the fall or next spring or something once there's been more work done to talk about, but feels like such a really good opportunity to address some of the many comments related to like hub work and the way that we do that and the way that looks different or does not look different.
So this is Sue again. Dorothy, thank you for bringing up that social emotional metric. One of the things that came up at the council meeting last month, and I think Pat may have been the one to bring it up, Pat Allen, was that they're beginning to see pushback from some quarters in the state, and I think it's national, as far as social emotional conversations. You know, I guess there's an element of the population that is wondering if there's a hidden agenda around social emotional and, you know, what's it mean? And I don't know if you all are aware of that or have experienced that in your own communities, that it's turning into a target once again for some real criticism. And I'd be really interested, I'm just beginning conversations. I had another one with the foundation this morning to look at, I think Pat said, how are we going to get ahead of this one? So I'd be really appreciative of you sending me an email, any of you who are aware of this pushback in your communities. Because I think it is something that we need to try to respond to or find another narrative to put out there.
Can you say more? Can you elaborate on what that pushback entails? Because I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah, and it's brand new to me, so I don't have a really good explanation. What I learned at meeting this morning is it's sort of that suspicion. It's like the critical race theory, right? It's that kind of, oh, what's really behind social emotional and who's gonna decide what children, you know, what emotions are appropriate or not appropriate, and who's gonna resolve what they think are inappropriate emotions. So I'm afraid it's sort of lining up the way the whole critical race theory conversation has devolved. Are any of you aware of this, or have you just not seen it?
Christy's nodding. Christy?
Yeah, in one of my communities, there was a proposal within the school district, and it's a very rural conservative community. And with the school district, they were proposing to put some kind of social emotional counseling within the school site. And the population of this community, because it bypassed the parents, strongly against it because there was the skepticism of what would be talked about without the parents ever having any knowledge or input or finding out what was going on. And so that was what I heard about in one of my communities, that parents didn't like it because it was happening without their knowledge or consent.
Right. Okay, well, if you all hear any more about this, and Christy, I might follow up with you at a later time, but obviously it's going to impact all of us and our work, I'm guessing.
Sorry, I was making myself a
Okay.
placeholder. I'll send out, I just put an article in the chat that I think you might be the one that Molly was referring to, but I can send out an email to everyone and with that, and then just a reminder to reply there to Sue if you have things that are coming up in your region that you could follow up with her on to make sure that she's knowing what you're hearing so we can get ahead of it as suggested.
Great. Thanks, Carmen.
Yeah, of course. And yes, Sue, I will follow up with you about how we can talking about getting the health sector highlighted as well. I have one thanks. I have one last thing for you that just kind of came up. I am wondering how if people would like to. I wonder what the need is for conversation about the social emotional metric with CCOs. We do have plans for them to come to a meeting in a couple of months and talk about what they're learning, what they're sharing with CCOs at their learning collaborative that they have with them. That's their sort of TA structure for helping the CCOs implement, is to have a ongoing, I think it's a monthly learning collaborative with them. And one of the topics is going to be like, how do we work with your hub, and like, how's that going so far for people? What should you ask of them, or what could you expect of them? What's their role? But I'm wondering, like, do people feel like, and it's okay if you don't, because there's a lot of things going on. Do people feel like we need just a baseline conversation with them as well, or a presentation either here, or I could set something up outside for people who want to opt into it in terms of what that CCO social emotional metric for kindergarten readiness is? Sorry, I'm in a weird view for that. Okay, if anyone does feel like they want to know more about it and want some resources to understand what it is and where it's coming from, or the history of that, please just let me know. I've got a bunch of stuff I can send you, and I'm happy to have a meeting with you or with the Transformation Center too to talk about it. All right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our agenda today. Thanks everyone for being here and for your just being so present with us today, and your questions and all the hard work that you're doing. And thank you for sharing those stories at the beginning. I want to make sure that we have that time with each other more. It's really good to hear those. Thanks for everything that you do, and I will send out the recording and notes, and we'll talk to you all soon. Have a great day.